So we're going to do the quiz at the end of class. We're going to do some review. I'll just go through some slides, kind of go over some review real quick, because I know y'all have been gone for an entire week. Speaking of the week, I hope you had a good spring break. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started today. Like I said, there will be a quiz at the end. Around 2:50, we'll stop and we'll hand it out. That way you'll have 20 minutes to do it. There's 10 questions on it. I am considering dropping one of the questions off, or the one that you scored lowest on, you'll get that dropped or something. I'm considering it. We'll see how the results come in at first, and then we'll decide from there. That way, you basically get 3 points for free, basically. Okay, so we learned regex the week before spring break, regular expressions, and wildcards. This week, we're learning how to use those regexes, or at least the commands that you can use to use those regular expressions and do certain things with them. We're not going to go through the regex for every single one of these commands, but each of these commands has a regex-like option that you can actually use regex with them. I will say, as a preface, this week's demo, or whatever I do today, will be a little bit of trial and error, because from system to system, you have different versions of, or standards of commands. So some commands use certain things by default, certain types of regex by default. Other commands on Linux or Mac might use something different. So you kind of have to tinker around with it a little bit to figure out which one works. That's why I'm not going to go over regex with each and every of these commands, because it differs from machine to machine. If I do something as an example up here on my Mac, it may not work in the Linux labs. So for the most part, I don't really use regex with these commands. They're there if you can use them. If you want to use them, the main one I use with regex is grep. But yeah, we'll go over that in a second. So like I said, quiz today. Office hours will be after class. So if you want to visit me after class and whatnot, you can, if you have questions or concerns. We're kind of at a little bit beyond the halfway point in the class. We have this week, which is searching. Then we have permissions and scripting, processes and jobs, and then intro to C++, make files, whatnot. So we don't have too much left. There'll be probably 2 more homeworks, and I'm hoping 3 to 4 more quizzes. That way you're well prepared for the final exam. So yeah, another thing, all grades that you have completed thus far, except for the quiz today, should be in Dropbox this week, on Wednesday, hopefully. So if you have any questions about your grades, please come see me or email me to make an appointment, and we can discuss them. I try to get to the midway point so I can give you like feedback about how you're doing in the class, what you can kind of expect to do, or how you can do better in the class. One thing I would like to let you know is Dropbox does have your weighted grades correct. So on the syllabus, if I go to the syllabus, if I can log in. Come on. Okay, I give up. How's that password for size? Okay, so if you go to the syllabus, thus far we've completed homeworks, quizzes, and labs. So that's 70% of your grade. Obviously, we'll do more of those assignments so you can like even it out or make more progress and get better or do better during the semester. But so far, you have up to 70% of your grade already displaying on Dropbox. So if you want to know your grade in the class thus far, go on Dropbox. You should have an average, and divide that by 70. And that will give you your letter grade. And then you can look at this grading scale, to kind of determine what letter grade you're kind of going towards, or how you can improve and whatnot. So quizzes are 30%, labs are 15%, homeworks are 25%, that adds up to 70, and then your final, which will be the last week of class, or the last 2, a lecture and the lab that you have, will be your last 30%. And I'll explain more about that when we get closer to it. But yeah, as far as things go, we're kind of on week 9 right here. I switched these 2 lectures around. I forgot to change it on my syllabus from last semester. But we only have probably 5, 6 more classes left. And then we're at the final exam. So, okay, any questions? So go on Dropbox, divide your score in the class by 70. That's your grade that you're going towards. It is correct. I did take the time to set up the grading scale correctly in Dropbox. So it is going to weight it correctly. That way you don't have to calculate your grade the entire semester. Without the exam, yes. Without the final exam, that's your grade so far. So it should be 60-something or whatever number out of 70. You divide that, that's your grade percentage. All right, any questions about how to calculate your grade so far? Okay, so 2 weeks from now is WF date. This is the 27th. That's the reason I'm trying to get grades in so you can make a decision. I encourage you, if you are considered dropping the class, please come talk to me first. I don't think many of you are in that position, but if you're thinking about it, then please come and talk to me first before you make that decision. Okay, so a little bit of review real quick. So pay attention to this. This will be on your quiz, all of these things. So we learned regex the week before spring break. So star, whenever you see a star, it's 0 or more. That's just something you gotta commit to memory, 0 or more. And then plus is 1 or more characters. Commit that to memory. So star, 0, plus 1 or more. Then question mark is 0 or 1. So basically the character is optional or whatnot. Then inside your square brackets, anything that you put inside of these square brackets matches one character, only 1 character. So if I give you a regex, like how, what does this match? This does not match the word how. It either matches H or O or W once. So you only get 1 of those characters in square brackets, just like this. You don't get any more. You only get 1. All right? And then what you can do after this is add a quantifier or qualifier or whatever. Quantifier, I've seen it, quantifier, qualifier, whatnot. What you can do after this is add your quantifier, which can be star. So now we got 0 or more H, O's, or W's. So we could have H, 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 we could have O, 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 we could have W 3 times, or infinitely many times, or none at all. You can also have plus, that's 1 or more inside of the square brackets. So you have to at least have 1. And then question mark means that any of these letters in here are optional. You either have 0 or 1 of them. Okay? So in your lab before spring break, you had something, I think, like BOOKS, and then you had a question mark. And that question mark means that S is optional. So you either have book, singular, or you have books, plural. So, and I'm just doing these in the command line because I can type there. Okay, so square brackets means only 1 of the characters inside the square brackets. If you want to do a range, like let's say you want to go from digits 0 through 9, then there's your 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 9. And that only is the single digits. Now, if you want to do the tens, then you have to do 2 inside of curly braces. So that means select 2 numbers out of that range. If I had none at all, it's just 1 digit at all. If I wanted all 3-digit numbers, then I would do 3, and so on. So that all it means is the number in the curly braces says, hey, give me exactly that number and number of those digits inside the brackets. Yeah. So so the thing with regex is you're matching a certain pattern, right, inside of a file or something somewhere else. You can make it as specific as you want or as broad as you want. And you kind of have to gauge which one you want and which one you don't. Okay. So if you want 0 or more of these digits, you just put a star. If you want 1 or more, you put a plus. So, yeah. Any questions on regex? Okay. So none of the quiz questions have anything to do with commands or anything using regex. All you have to do is do stuff like this and combine these kind of symbols. Yep. Okay. So that's regex. Just so if you do see it in lab this week, there's a ton of websites. Some of you may have used these already. They're little regex like emulators, kind of, or programs that you can use to test your regular expressions. So in this like default thing they gave us, they have this A through Z, and then they have any word, and then they have one or many of them. And the nice thing about these regex little testers is they sometimes come up with this little like explanation down here that tells you exactly what things are doing. So if you read through this, it kind of tells you, hey, exactly what's going on. So I almost always use these if I'm ever going to use a regex for like a command or anything. I usually prototype my regex in here, and then I use it and put it in a command and stuff. All right. So there's a ton of those websites. Okay, so going back to last week, why regex? Why do we want to learn regex? So almost all, or at least compilers that I know of, use regex to help you parse your code and convert it to binary to some form or not. So if we zoom in a little bit, we start out with your high-level language code, C, C++, Java, whatnot, compiled language. And then it goes into the C preprocessor, which does some things. And then it goes into the C compiler, which does some things. And then it goes down to the assembler, which does some things. And then it goes down to the linker and whatnot. Make sure it's binary. So you don't need to know what everything is between this, but in one of these levels, your code is being parsed with regular expressions in order to get you down to here to the binary code, zeros and ones, that a computer can understand. All right? So regex is somewhere in here at some point. Okay. So how do you see regex inside of compilers and whatnot? You can define an integer a, like 1, 2, 3, and then your regex to match this expression, this int a or statement, whatever you want to call it. I don't remember exactly the semantics. But the regex you use to match this is you have int, so that's an integer, right? And then you have a space, one or more spaces. And then you have some kind of lowercase, uppercase variable name, 0 or one or more times. And then there's another space, and then maybe you have a plus and an equals, and so on. So the point is you can write a regex to match any kind of statement inside of your code. Same thing with instructions. You can write regexes that match certain instructions. So these are instructions. So you go from your int a equals 1, 2, 3 to here's your instructions, which are compiled from your high-level language code. Like int a 1, 2, 3 corresponds to add 0 and 0 and store it in T1. These are things you'll see like in another class if you're in computer science. Yeah.
The final plus, could you replace that with a star thing, and it would get you the same thing? Or no?
Which one?
The final plus on the, yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, because then you wouldn't have a number at all here. You would just have a 1, 2, 3 would be gone.
Okay.
So what this does is 0 through 9, one or more times. That's your integer right here.
Yeah.
If you have a star, that means you don't have to have anything here.
Okay.
That you wouldn't have a number.
Okay.
So yeah. So this is a regex for matching int a, and when your compiler sees that this regex matches something, it gives you these instructions, which these instructions are then converted to binary. These are almost one-to-one. You'll learn in like, I think it's 211 or 212, how to convert between instructions and binary. But yeah, anyway, point is, you have some kind of high-level language code, Java, C++, whatever, and it eventually gets converted down to binary. And regex is one of those steps. Okay, so how do we use regex? What commands do we use in this class? We're not going to build a compiler, right? So we got to use regex somewhere else. So you can use it to search for files in your operating system. So if you need to find a certain file or directory, you can use it there. You can use it to find text inside of files, certain patterns and whatnot. And you'll actually do this in lab this week a little bit. And then you can do search and replace in Vim and search and replace on the command line with sed. All right, so first command, this is one of the most useful commands you'll ever use, probably. Like, I didn't start using it probably till junior year of college, undergrad, but this will save you a lot of time. So how to use grep? Grep just searches for patterns inside of files. So if I want to search in a ton of files to find something, so if I go into this demo directory and I have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever, and let's say I go into a.txt and I just type some hello world, this is a demo of using the grep command. So if I just type something in this file and save it, and let's say I want to search for a word inside that file. All right, so cat a.text. So let's say we want to search for the word demo. So the way we do this is we do grep demo and then the file name, so a.text. And what grep returns is the line that has demo in it. So this gets really, really fast. Like if you want to search through a ton of files to figure out what files contain errors or whatnot as a result of your code or script or whatnot, you can use grep, and grep will easily find these things very quickly. Like, you know how you go in Finder and you might go up here, or File Explorer, whatever, and go up to this little search bar and you type something and everything, it takes forever. Grep is a lot faster. I promise you. Grep can sort through like hundreds of thousands of files. So I was experimenting around before the class with this kind of thing. Let's see, and it was like a.z, and it was 1.100, and then I'm just going to do this, and then star.txt. Okay, so it works on my Mac. It does not work on Linux. So anyway, grep just allows you to search. So let's see if I can come up with something else. Let's just grep for the word 2 letters TE and star. Okay, that doesn't have anything in it. Let's do the. So if you're searching through multiple files at once, it will actually give you the file name. So if I enter down, so the result of searching through all these files results in a.text has the in this line. And there's a ton of things you can do with the grep. But anyway, the point of grep just searches for patterns inside of files. You can use regex and whatnot with it. I think you have to do something like regex -e, or you can do like --regex or something. But you can figure out how to use the regex if you want to. The point of grep is just to search for things inside of files. All right. So yeah, -e for extended irregular expressions. Okay, so find. So let's say you accidentally don't remember where you're at in the file system, or where you put a file or something. So this is like your actual search bar up here in Finder or whatnot, and you try to search for a.txt. You do this, and it returns those files, right? All right. So if I do find dot, which is this directory, and then do -name, and then I want to find a.text. I do this, and it's going to take a second, because it's actively searching all the directories below my home directory for this a.txt file. Okay, it's done. And the reason this took longer than Finder is because Finder indexes stuff. Like it pre-searches things and has pre-defined locations. Also, this was on my Mac and not the Linux labs. So the Linux labs probably incurred a little bit of latency too. But yeah, so you do find the path that you want to search in. Okay, hello. Okay, I guess the internet maybe disconnected. Nope, there it goes. Path, and then the name of the file, and then you gave it the name. So you do this, it finds the file or directory that you're looking for, and yeah. So if you get lost, you can use this, yeah.
So what else could you put besides the period there?
Any path. So if I do find in desktop, name demo, you can add any location instead of the dot. So you do find the location that you want to search, any directory name, any path that you want to search. You can even do root if you want to. It will take literally forever on the Linux labs, and it will probably give you a ton of permissions denied, like that. But it's going to take probably a long time. User share. Okay, that's an interesting one. Anyway, so, and yes, you could redirect this to standard out and whatnot and get rid of all this permission denied and stuff. All right, so again, you can use regex with this. Different machines do it differently. Some use GNU grep. This is using some kind of GNU packages. Others are using like BSD on Mac and whatnot. So there are some differences here. Yeah, and there's some examples there if you want to do this. And you'll get more practice in this in lab this week. That's why I'm kind of speeding through it, because we also have to get to the quiz in a few minutes. All right, so sed stands for stream editor. I also use this one very frequently to search and replace things. So if I go into my desktop, go into this demo directory, and let's just put some numbers here. 100, 101, 200, 300. So now in this a.txt file, we have a bunch of numbers. And let's say we want to replace one of them. Or maybe, here's a better example. Let's do a.txt. Let's do a little bit of code. Int hello equals a, or 1, 2, 3. And maybe let's do int world equals hello. Something like that. Say in your code, you want to rename an entire variable name that you use throughout your code somewhere. Well, you can do it this way using sed. So you can do sed, be clear, sed -i. So -i stands for inline. By default, if you don't specify -i, sed will not change the file. Sed will just dump the contents of the file with the changes. So if we do sed, and then search, and then after the slash you put whatever pattern you want, your regex or whatnot. So if we want to search for hello, and we want to maybe replace it with beep, then we have this kind of expression. Let's explain this. I'm going to type it first and then explain it. a.txt. So what you're doing here is you're saying, I want to search and for hello, so hello has to be between these two like forward slashes, and then I want to replace it with beep between these two forward slashes.
What's the G?
I think it stands for global. I'm not sure. I learn one thing one way and then I don't touch it. All right. So this searches and replaces your every instance of hello in the file with beep. So if you needed to rename a variable or something somewhere, this is an easy way of doing it. It's just like the search and replace you're used to. But the nice thing about this is not only can you search and replace, but you can also specify a regex. So if you wanted to specify like, okay, I want to change all numbers 0 through 9, 0 through 9. Let's just say any 2-digit number with 2 question marks, maybe. Question mark, question mark. Then you could do this. So regardless of what number you have right here, this is any 2-digit number inside of your file. You can search and replace for any 2-digit number and replace it with question marks. Why do we put backslashes before the question marks? Yeah, so they're escape characters. Question marks, remember, is 0 or 1 character. So in order to say, hey, we don't mean these as regex question marks, we have to actually put a backslash in front of them. Okay, so sed just allows you to kind of, the base functionality of sed, the easiest one is searching and replacing. You can also search and replace with nothing. So if I wanted to replace all those 2-digit characters with nothing, then I just don't specify anything in between these 2 forward slashes. I just leave it blank. And then any 2-digit character basically gets deleted, essentially. Okay. So when I did it earlier, when I did hello, I replaced all the instances of hello with beep. It just dumped the output here into the terminal, right? But if we go back and look at our file, it didn't actually modify it, right? So you could redirect this output to a new file, or we can do sed -i, and this changes it in the actual file. So now that we added that -i, it no longer dumps the output. If we look at the file now, then it actually modified it. Okay. All right. A string literal? What's the best way to make sure you're not doing it? So try your regex in one of those regex helpers. So for all the time when I do sed commands and write them inside of a script, I always check the regex inside of one of those little regex online checkers. And I put a couple test cases in the little test case box. So I'm talking about one of these. I write my regex here that I think is correct, and then I put a bunch of text here and test cases to make sure it doesn't do things that I don't want it to do, and also it does what I want it to do. All right. So, okay. So in Vim, it uses a similar search and replace tool. So if you made a mistake in your code now, all you have to do is, just like sed, you can do colon and then do the S//G like format, and it will replace things. Now, if you just do S and then the ////G, then it only replaces one. If you want to replace all occurrences of that pattern, then you have to put a % sign here to replace everything inside the file that matches at this initial pattern right here. Okay, so in Vim, if you want to learn how to search and replace, that's how you do it. There's a ton of other things that you can do in Vim that are just like the things you would be used to in like regular text editors. Okay, so demo time, we don't really have time for because we have a quiz. That's mainly from last semester. So this week, I'm going to give you a CSV file, a lot smaller this time. It's going to be like a spreadsheet of like inventory of a grocery store or something. It's going to have certain vegetables, fruits, whatnot. It's going to have their category they're in, inside the food hierarchy, a price, the number of units or whatnot. And you're going to use some of these like regex tools, sed, grep, and find, and stuff like that, to actually modify them and get some data.